Ahoy there, Captain Benzie here, coming at you with the first Command & Conquer Rivals video I've made in some time. Now you may be asking yourself, but Benzie, didn't you say you were leaving the C&C Rivals community and that you weren't going to make any further content for the game? Well, yes and no. Ultimately, the response to that video was overwhelmingly positive. Thank you guys so much for your support and your kind words. I spent days going up and down the comment section there, just responding to people and thanking you all so much for every ounce of support you gave me through what was quite a difficult time for me. It got me to thinking that so many of you were sad to see me go. I thought, why on earth should I let the toxic heart of this community, spread out and corrode into the good things that you guys are enjoying? If you guys are enjoying my content, why should I let them stop you from getting that? Why should I punish you guys for other people being haters? So, guess what? I'm back. Screw the haters. Today I wanted to have a look through the patch notes for the today's patch, 25th of March 2020. We have had a new patch with some rather interesting GDI nerfs, which I am super happy about. Before we do jump in, let me know if you enjoyed the video by hitting like on it, consider subscribing to the channel for all things mobile gaming, and possibly some more C&C Rivals content in the future. Let me know what content you would like to see me make, either by commenting down below in the comment section, or by coming and finding me on the various social media channels that are listed along the bottom of your screen now. Cool, that said and done, let's jump right into the patch notes, starting, of course, with GDI. Now for GDI, Dr. Liang, first up, looks like he is very busy off healing coronavirus patients. Certainly, I love the fact that the devs put that as a little support message earlier. Fantastic, really lovely little message. But it looks like he's busy dealing with patients, so it's harder to get him onto the battlefield. His cost has gone from 40 up to 50. It says here that reverting the cost reduction from the previous patch, as Liang is still proving to be too strong. Quite frankly, I don't really have much of an issue with Liang, so I'm guessing this is kind of a top tier situation. Ultimately, I still feel that movement speed would have been a great change for this. The fact that a standard missile or laser squad does a lot of damage to Liang's drone now means that if you're trying to steal a pad with a laser squad or something near it, it goes down super quick anyway, so I don't know. There's a part of me that just thinks movement speed would be enough. I'm not against Liang going up to 50. I don't think it's a catastrophic nerf. I think he will drop out of play a little bit. That said, I think a lot of people have leveled Liang, so considering Liang is going to be quite high level for a lot of people and the nerf isn't drastic, I still think he's going to see a lot of play. I don't think you need to change from Liang anytime soon. Now the Sandstorm HP has gone from 4,300 down to 3,623. That's nearly 500 drop. That is a big drop. And it says here it survives too long for high damage multi-purpose unit. Reducing its health will make it easier for players to deal with it. 100%. I think with the Razorback and the Shade being so popular, the Sandstorm made a comeback in a big way. Being a hover unit that hits 3 units in front of it and can deal massive damage to all unit types, it actually does a surprising amount of damage even to infantry. Infantry is your best counter, obviously, but it still does a surprising amount of damage to them. Ultimately, the Sandstorm needed something just to bring it down a peg, and I think a health nerf was probably the best way to go. I've tried a couple of games running the Sandstorm at the moment. It has died fairly quickly, so I feel like this is a solid change. Mammoth tanks cost from 230 to 250. Mammoth tank tends to be very dominant when it gets out. Increasing its cost will slow down its initial production time. Now, simply put, again, this is twofold a good change for me and sort of a slightly... I don't know. The good part for me is that, yes, it has gone from 230 to 250. I play Mammoth quite a bit, Mammoth Air, with a twist. For me, it's now coming out that little bit later. It's not much. 20 Tiberium really doesn't make a difference hardly for when that first Mammoth comes out. The difficulty is now that if that Mammoth gets destroyed, it does cost a lot to replace it, and that 20 Tiberium starts making a difference there, especially if they're putting pressure on your harvesters. If they suddenly start spamming Mohawks or Banshees and stuff like that, and you haven't got the air defenses already in position, that can impact you playing as a Mammoth. That said, this to me is not the nerf it needed. I still believe that the Mammoth tank, again, it's the movement speed nerf that it needed, or possibly even just taking away its anti-air functionality. Okay, it's barely anything, but it just means that laser drones suddenly become a much better way of dealing with a Mammoth. Is this going to stop me using a Mammoth tank? No. Is it going to make the Mammoth tank slightly harder to use? Yes. Are you going to stop seeing Mammoth tanks? No. This is not an overly meaningful nerf, and I don't think it's going to change much. Slingshot. Can I get an alleluia? cost from 50 to 60. Finally, the developers agree that the slingshot is too efficient for its cost with its high damage design. This will put its cost more in line with its stats. 100%. The slingshot does not need to come out as early as it does. It does not need to be as easy to replace as it is. And quite frankly, the fact that it can delete all air units pretty much from 2 range away for as little as 50 cost was just insane. Ultimately, this now being 60, I like this a lot. I would still like to see movement speed again be something that gets nerfed on the slingshot, simply so that you can't dance it around as much. The slingshot, I maintain that the slingshot should be one of those units, like the MLRS or the Giga Cannon, that if you get it out of position, it's punishable. You can punish it. Right now, the slingshot, to me, its biggest problem is that you can't punish it. If you try to get close to it with infantry, there's going to be something else to block the way. If you try to get in there with vehicles, there's going to be something like a missile squad that gets in the way. Ultimately, there's no good way of dealing with the slingshot because it can hide behind stuff and it can just yeet itself away when anything does actually manage to get close. As such, I would like to make it harder for it to yeet itself away, but in fairness, the cost here does mean that a slingshot that's destroyed takes a little bit longer to replace, making this firmly now a mid-game unit rather than a surprisingly early anti-air deletion unit. To me, that is a decent change. I hope it's enough. I've not really seen many slingshots, and I've not had to use mine overly just because air isn't a big thing at the moment where I'm playing. And simply put, to me, this should be enough, but if not, then movement change is still what I'd talk about. Solomon, damage to structures from 6,000 to 4,000. I know this is something a lot of people have been talking about. 100% this needed to be done. As it says here, when the damage was changed to be gradual from its base tile, the structure damage was set too high. This change puts its output where it's intended. This ultimately, we had a return of the Solomon base rush. Basically, try and get the first missile. Once you've got the first missile, just spam laser drones or talons or other stuff at the enemy base to maintain line of sight and just hit it with ion cannons repeatedly until it dies. It's remarkably hard to defend against. This now means that it's a solid, well, put it this way, 6,000 down to 4,000. That's 2,000 off every shot. That's gone down by a third, which means you're going to need, on average, 1 more shot for every 3 that you would have had, which suddenly makes this not such a worthwhile tactic. It's an extra hit. It's extra time to kill a base, which, quite frankly, was needed. Solomon needed that nerf. Still great at deleting units and clearing pads, just you can't nuke a base so easily with it anymore. Zone Troopers delay between attacks from 0.75 to 1.5. This was something that was incorrect. This was technically a bug. Yes, that has now been changed. Zone Troopers now fire much slower, which means they are not as good as killing Rifleman squads as they used to be, making Riflemen and Militants a great option for killing Zone Troopers again. Huzzah! Riflemen and Militants have a use. Mohawk, rate of fire from 1.15 to 1.3, trading too favourably with its matchups. Now, this doesn't actually change how it interacts with the Pitbull, hardly. I think it goes from 3.2 shots to kill a Pitbull to 3.6, 3.6 seconds, sorry, or however it works. It hasn't changed it so that the Pitbull, that interaction changes with the Pitbull. It's the attack bikes that suddenly trade much more favourably with the Mohawk, which, quite frankly, Nod needed. Nod really needs that because attack bikes have just been in a really bad place. That is an inadvertent buff to attack bikes, mainly. Pitbulls aren't really going to see much of a change to that. Slingshots aren't going to see much of a change to that, of course. And ultimately, the Mohawk still kills things at a decent speed. I will be keeping Mohawks in my deck, and I don't foresee the meta deck of Slingshot, Razorback, Mohawk, Pitbull, and then your infantry. I don't see that changing anytime soon. I think that is still going to work absolutely fine. Orca Bomber, reload time from 10 to 12 seconds. I know this is huge for a lot of you guys. A lot of you guys have been saying the Orca Bomber still feels really oppressive. To me, 100% this is a great way of doing it. That 2 seconds extra reload is humongous, and it really does make a big difference. It means once you survive the initial barrage from an Orca Bomber, it's a lot longer before it comes back into the fray. 2 seconds doesn't sound like much, but actually count that out in the middle of a battle, and you'll see how much can happen in that time. Anyway, let's move on to Nod. Cyborgs, delay between squad attacks increased from 0.75 to 1. Now, I've seen a couple of people ask, is that intended, considering Zone Troopers are 0.75 to 1.5? Yes, Cyborgs do fire slightly faster than Zone Troopers, but they also have significantly less damage. Or, I'm going to change the word significantly before someone crucifies me for that. They have lower damage. However, they do, of course, have the EMP effect, which slows things down as well. So Cyborgs, again, this is just kind of a correction. It puts them back into a position. Cyborgs aren't in the best position anyway right now, and this kind of does take them down a peg. to where they're supposed to be, which apparently is B tier. Laser drones, health decreased from 200 to 180, and the delay between squad attacks from 0.3 to 0.4. That's quite huge. It doesn't look like much, but it does make quite a difference. Again, it sees here that this fixes the breakpoint created by the previous attack bike nerf. It means attack bikes are a little bit better against laser drones. They do actually kill them at a 2-level difference properly now. The laser drones still do a significant amount of damage to all ground units. It's not a significant enough buff that you're really going to notice much, just that if you had over-leveled laser drones, attack bikes are going to do better against them than they were before. And finally, Jade's Catalyst Missile. The cloud was bugged from the previous patch. This change corrects the damage output. That is a humongous buff to Jade. A lot of people have been asking, is that a buff or a nerf? That is a buff, a firm, conclusive buff. What was happening was that if you were launching a Catalyst Missile into a cloud, it basically just did the cloud explosion, not actually the missile hitting anymore. Essentially, this now means that you get a significant increase to damage. If you're just firing Jade's Catalyst Missile at a unit, you won't notice any difference. If you're firing it into chem clouds, that first explosion is going to be significantly larger and is going to do a lot more damage to units that were in it. That is a big change, one that we've been crying out for since, again, ultimately, that was just a bug. This was not something that was intended for Jade. That was just a bug that has been fixed. So there we go. Overall, GDI gets some interesting nerfs. I mean, certainly the Sandstorm and the Slingshot and Solomon and the Zone Troopers are significant nerfs. The Orca Bomber is an interesting one. I like how that's gone. It's not as big as certainly Solomon, and the Slingshot were the two biggest for me, alongside the Sandstorm. Mammoth Tank I don't think is particularly meaningful. The Mohawk is kind of more a breakpoint change. It just gives the attack bikes a little bit of a buff, which I quite like. Dr. Liang, it's not the way I'd like it to go, but it might change things. For Nod, cyborgs and laser drones have just been toned down a touch. The Catalyst Missile has had a significant buff. If, like me, you are a Jade player, this is a good time. I will still be using the Jade War Factory deck, the one that has laser drones and stealth tanks. I'm going to be using that because now the Catalyst Missile does its damage, and I don't think the laser drones have been nerfed in any significant way. But hey, that's just me. I love it when you guys let me know your thoughts politely in the comment section down below. I love it when you come and tell me how wrong I am, as long as you do it politely. Anyone who starts swearing or calling people idiots is going to get hidden from my channel, which means it's not really blocked. You won't know that you've got it, just your comments won't appear to anyone but you. You sit there and wonder, why is no one responding to my cleverly worded put down? That's why, because I've hidden you. You can still see my videos, you can still see your comments, you just, no one else can see your comments to respond to them. It's great, it's my favourite thing as a YouTuber. Anyway folks, let me know your thoughts and opinions on this patch in the comment section down below. Let me know what kind of content you'd like to see for Command & Conquer Rivals going forward. I'm interested in making some. I have been playing since me sort of stepping out of the community. I've still been playing, but I would like to make some more content on this. It's a game I enjoy, and you know what? Why should you guys suffer just because the haters want to be absolute asshats? Anyway, thank you ever so much for all your support. Thanks for watching to the end. Happy sailing, and see you on the battlefield.